I flipped rocks, plywood, and everything in between to track down some of the most feared animals on the planet to see if they're as dangerous as some people claim. To maximize my chances of actually finding venomous snakes and other cool animals, I went to 4 different habitats. Here's everything I found. This forest was the first place I explored. I chose this place to flip rocks because it's an extremely diverse area with snakes I've never found before, and there are a ton of rocks to flip. And I wasted no time and immediately started flipping some rocks. Underneath one of them, I found a lizard. It was pretty quick, but I eventually found it. This is an eastern fence lizard. They're a pretty common medium-sized lizard, and they're found all throughout the eastern part of North America. Under the next rock, I found this venomous northern black widow. They don't often bite unless provoked, and their bites can cause painful symptoms, but are very rarely fatal. For the rest of the video, I'm only going to include the rocks that had cool things under them. In reality, I flipped over 100 rocks looking for venomous snakes. And under this rock, I found a snake. This is a completely harmless and unfortunately non-venomous eastern milk snake. This species is found all throughout eastern North America, and they're actually pretty common, but I never get tired of finding them. This one's just a juvenile, so its colors are still very vibrant, but as they get older, the color and pattern tends to fade. For the most part, this one was pretty chill, except for when it tried to bite me. Ooh. But it's so small that its bite would literally feel like somebody pinching you. Of course, I put it right back where I found it. Before I went under the rock, it shook its tail and tried to convince me that it was a rattlesnake. Under the next rock, I found a 5-line skink. Their bright blue tail is a defense mechanism, and it'll fall off if a predator picks them up by it. If they do lose their tail, it eventually grows back. Under the next rock, a ton of ants. Then I found a wasp nest. I wasn't going to stick around and see if they were going to sting or not, so I started driving to the next spot of the day. While I was driving and eating my lunch, I found something in the middle of the road. An eastern box turtle in the worst possible place to be if you're a turtle. As with any turtle, you should always move them in the direction that they were headed. This one unfortunately had a bit of damage on its carapace or top part of its shell. I found another box turtle just hanging out on the side of the road, but this is a busy highway, so I went ahead and moved him back into the grass. I moved on to the next spot of the day, which was this pond, still within the same forest. Here I found another 5-lined skink basking on a rock. I was surprised that it still had its bright blue tail because as they get older and usually this size, the color fades. I saw a snake shed down in the water, and then I think I found who it may have belonged to. There's a snake right there, but I think it's too far for me to catch. Northern water snake. A bite from this size snake doesn't really hurt, and this one managed to get a few bites on me. They do have an anticoagulant in their saliva, which causes their prey to bleed out, and it can cause you to bleed a lot, but you'll be just fine. I'm gonna let him go up top here because I actually don't think there's any way for it to get back up. Right by where I let the snake go, I found some frog eggs. Pretty cool. On my way to the next spot of the day, I found another snake. Here we have a black rat snake. I could immediately tell it was a rat snake because of the way it was laying on the ground. The rat snake kink, please don't be a weirdo, that's literally what it's called, is when the snake twists its spine in a sort of S shape. Some people think that they do this to blend in with branches on a tree. Once it realized that I didn't think it was a stick, it tried to get away from me. I stood in front of it, and it rightfully tried to defend itself, so it struck at me a few times, but it didn't actually bite me. Yeah, he's pretty much chilled completely out, now that I've had him in my hands for a second. Hey, he's checking out the camera. It did have damage on its tail where it might have been grabbed by a hawk or some other kind of predator. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and let him go. On the second day of looking for venomous snakes, I went to a forest that I've been to in the past. Allegedly, you can find timber rattlesnakes and copperheads here, but I've never found either at this location. There are a ton of things to flip here, so I started looking under everything to see what I could find. Underneath this big piece of plywood, I found a snake. Milk. This is another eastern milk snake, and you can see that the colors are a little bit different than the one I found on the first day. The snake's a little bit older, so the red has kind of faded to this brown color, but still a beautiful snake. This snake didn't bite or musk on me, which I definitely appreciate. Down at my feet, I found a little frog. I think it looks a lot like a spring peeper, but it's so small that it's kind of hard to tell. After looking underneath another piece of plywood, I found another snake. This one was much smaller though. This is a Decay's brown snake. They're non-venomous and eat things like slugs and snails. This species can be found under things like rocks and logs from Canada all the way down into northern Mexico. Really quick, before I flip the next piece of plywood, I wanted to let you guys know about a way that you can protect species and conserve nature from home. With Planet Wild, you can make a real difference. Stick around to the end to learn more. Sure enough, under this board, there was another snake. This one was also very small. This is a northern ringneck snake, a completely harmless species that gets their name from the yellow ring around their neck. A really cool fact about them is that they are technically venomous. Under the next piece of wood, I found this green frog. Nice. I then saw something hopping around out of the corner of my eye. When I took a closer look, I found the tiniest little toad that I've ever seen. I think that this is a Fowler's toad, but when they're this small, they're kind of hard to identify. It doesn't come across how small this is very well on camera, so here it is on a penny for scale. On the third day, I explored around this rocky waterfall. I'll admit I was here for a wedding, but I was also keeping an eye out for any snakes. I found absolutely nothing. On the last day, I took a trip to a completely different forest. I chose this location because in the past I have found the shed skin of a copperhead here, but not the actual snake itself. First thing in the morning, I found this cicada, which was pretty cool. Then I started flipping rocks, and literally on the third rock that I flipped, I found this eastern copperhead. It only took me 4 days to find this truly venomous snake. This snake was not aggressive at all, but hypothetically, if it were to bite, what would happen? Copperheads deliver venom through their fangs into their prey. The venom is considered hemolytic, which means as it enters the bloodstream and interacts with the victim's blood, it causes blood vessels to completely shut down. The venom is meant for taking down prey, but sometimes it is used in defense. For humans, a copperhead bite can cause uncomfortable pain for 7 to 14 days on average, but it's very rare that a bite is deadly. There's just a 1 in 10,000 chance that a copperhead bite would be fatal. If someone were to get bit, they should get to a hospital as soon as possible. The snake didn't care that I just lifted the rock off of it, and it didn't try to strike me a single time. In fact, the other snakes that I caught that weren't venomous were much more likely to bite me. Most human envenomations come from people trying to pick up the snake and move it. The safest thing you could do is leave the snake alone. For the next few hours, I flipped a bunch of rocks with very little luck. So I decided to leave for the day, and as I was leaving, I found another eastern box turtle in the road. This was the smallest of the 3 that I found this video. It's a real privilege to be able to interact with these incredible animals every day. And honestly, it's the coolest thing ever that I get to share what I find with you guys. That being said, I'm extremely excited that I get to spread the word about this group that recently teamed up with researchers to find and protect lost frog species in Ecuador. They're called Planet Wild, and they have a unique approach to conservation. Every month, Planet Wild partners with a new organization to tackle critical environmental issues, whether it's cleaning up oceans, restoring forests, or saving endangered animals. Think of them as crowdfunding, but for nature. You can become a digital nature conservationist, making a real impact from the comfort of your home. By joining Planet Wild, you'll be part of a community that cares deeply about our planet. Planet Wild's monthly contributions support real projects on the ground, and they provide 100% transparency. You'll be able to see exactly where your money goes through their informative videos, detailed reports, and blog posts on their app. And the best part, membership costs just $6 a month. You'll get the satisfaction of knowing you're making a difference, plus access to their Discord community, monthly mission credits, and a special badge recognizing your support. I've covered the cost of the first month for the first 200 people to join using my code, so there's really no reason not to. If you're not satisfied, you can cancel anytime, no questions asked. Subscribe through this QR code or through the link in the description and check out Planet Wild's latest mission here. Together, we can make a difference now.